Good afternoon and welcome to Facebook Live. I am Mayor Travis Stovall, and I am here with our incredible city manager, Nina Vetter.
Hello,
Welcome,
everyone.
Nina.
Thank
You for joining us as always. We've got lots of stuff going on in our community right now, and as always, it's as we start to see us go from kind of winter to spring, still dark a little early. So make sure as you're out and about, you're just being safe, wearing bright colors. Just the other day, I was driving down the road and somebody was walking along the shoulder in all dark colors, and I cringed at that idea because we want people to be safe. Sadly enough, last year we lost 10 people to traffic accidents here in the Gresham area. So we just want to make sure folks are being safe as we move forward and move into those well anticipated summer months. So that's coming. I just want to get you something that gives us incredible thoughts about warm weather and sunshine.
Yes.
So with that, I do want to say we've heard about, of course, lots of folks have reached out in regards to our family birth center closing at Legacy Mount Hood Medical Center. As a city, we are actually well involved in the process in helping have conversations about the importance of it, but also making sure that we work with our community partner, Legacy, and the folks that work at the hospital to look at what the future looks like and to ensure that we can provide the services within our community to those who absolutely need it. So we've got some great leadership. Council President Sue Piazza is working with Legacy and working primarily also with staff and doctors and community members to really help bring us together in a way that helps us move forward as a community, as what we would want. So again, I just want to let folks know that we are aware of it, and we're working with all the parties to ensure we can move forward. With that, the major topic for today is the Gresham Safety Levy. And I'm just going to give a little bit of a foundation, from the elected official side. And then there's a lot of we've got content, we've got details. And that's why you're here. I mean, you have a deep understanding of where we're going and what we need. But folks, as the mayor and as a longtime Gresham resident, we've seen parts of our community, I would say, I won't say deteriorate, but in the sense we've seen large parts of our community start to decline for lack of investment. And that's foundational. As we look around the region, we see cities that are of similar size that have 50% more budget than what we do in what we call our general fund. And that's the fund that we have that has some discretionary. So our police, our fire, our city admin, all of those things go into that general fund, community development. And again, we're the fourth largest city in the state, second largest city in the region. And we sit at roughly about 90 million currently. Sister cities like Hillsborough and Beaverton each sit closer to about 125 to 130 million. So roughly 50% more. And we're the fourth largest city. We're bigger than both of those, not combined, but each of them. And we exist sometimes with upwards to 50% less budget than they do. That's challenging. I mean, because we can't invest in police. We can't invest in fire. We can't invest in our homeless services. We can't invest in our crisis response teams, which gives us different responses to various things that may happen in our community. So those are some critical resources that we need. Those are some of the things we're talking about in this levy. So Nina, give us a breakdown of what we're looking at here and some of the key services that this levy will fund.
Yeah, absolutely. As you said, Mayor, at the end of the day, we're here to provide services to the community. And what we've consistently heard over the last few years is that people want to see an increase in investment, or in other words, an increase in services and service response, particularly when it comes to safety. We've heard that loud and clear for the last few years. And I will acknowledge we have done a lot of work with the resources that we have.
Absolutely.
Fortunately, our council has approved the use of one-time ARPA dollars from the federal government that acted as a financial Band-Aid for the time being so we can make critical investments. And fortunately, our state helped us fund a youth violence prevention program. So we're doing a lot of great work. And the reality is with the budget we have, we cannot continue to keep these programs running. We cannot continue to keep making investments in safety if we don't have more revenue. Right? That is the spot that we're at today. And again, with regards to safety in particular. So we're looking at what's called an operating levy, which essentially just functions like a property tax. It's $1.50 per $1,000 of assessed value. What does that mean? Essentially, to an average property owner in the city of Gresham, that would come out to about $28.50 per month. So what would you get for the cost? Why this levy? We want to invest in public safety. So all of the revenue that is generated from this levy will directly go to police, fire, homelessness, and crisis response. So it is a very targeted and focused levy that will help us be more responsive to our community. The investments in police include additional officers, additional support staff, additional community safety specialists so that we can respond via telephone, and we can be responsive on a more ongoing basis to our community. In the fire department, the additions that the safety levy would fund include more firefighters, as well as folks in our fire marshal's office, so that we can do safety inspections of important places like our schools, which is critical. Our homelessness and crisis response funds would also increase our staffing capacity there as well. So our community would see a direct impact of the result of investing in this levy, because we will be able to be more responsive. And again, we will be able to have a more comprehensive and thorough approach to solving for safety within Gresham.
So, Nina, you just touched on a number of different things, and I'm gonna have some follow-up questions, because many times, when we think about making additional investments, we tend to think of it as, well, we're going to try something. But much of what we're talking about here is an expansion of things that are working. You mentioned the Youth Violence Prevention Program, and I know I've talked to our folks within that program, and I've also talked to some of our officers, and both sides say this program has absolutely identified key opportunities to reduce violence in our community already. So it just got stood up last year, and I'm hearing stories about how this has positively impacted. As a matter of fact, sadly enough, we saw 15 homicides in our community in 2021. We saw 10 in 2022. That's a 33% reduction. Any homicide over 0 is one too many. So let's be clear, any homicide over 0 is one too many. Although we're starting to see the positive impact there. So it's somewhat of some of the expansion of some of the things that are working that is moving us in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not starting new things necessarily. Part of what is included in the levy is an expansion of our behavioral health team, which, if you're not familiar with them, they do respond to calls when someone is experiencing a mental or behavioral health crisis along with a police officer, and they also conduct follow-up as well. So if we happen to have a call where we had someone experiencing a mental or behavioral health issue, we also do follow-ups as well. So that program has been in place for a number of years, but it's been really limited, and it's been really well received by our community. It's been extremely helpful in providing a real comprehensive solution to the problem we're seeing, not just responding in the moment, but actually trying to solve for the problem. So it's a great example of a program that we're trying to expand to this levy, because we have been doing what we can with what we've got for so long, but this will really help us. And the other example is our community safety specialists. Again, our council fortunately funded the initial investment from our ARPA federal dollars to get us non-sworn community safety specialists that can respond to incidents that don't necessarily require a sworn officer. A minor traffic accident is a great example of when a safety specialist would show up. And this is a very common model across the country. We just haven't had it before. So we got that program stood up, but having the safety levy would enable us to expand that, and again, to be able to be more responsive to our community.
Excellent. Looks like we have a question.
Yeah, someone asked, don't we already pay these? In all of our taxes and charges on the utilities, we see these charges, and many of us are seeing a huge spike in our gas and electric bills.
Excellent question. So, yes, we do have a police, fire, and parks fee. That police, fire, and parks fee, although doesn't come close to covering our costs and where we're going. And the part of the challenge is that over time, we've got a fixed revenue increase. So our revenue per year can only go up roughly by about 3%. So 3% is about all our revenue can go up based on Measure 5 and Measure 50. We're not going to go deep into the technical portions, although if an individual who gave us a question would like for me to in the future, I'd love to sit down with them and talk about it. But essentially, our revenue goes up by 3%, and our expenses go up by more. So, things like just basic wages generally go up by 3 to 5% on an annual basis. So, and wages is one of our largest costs. And so that goes up. Benefits go up by a substantial amount every single year. Just the overall cost of things go up. Supplies go up. All those things go up usually by more than 3%, but our revenue can only go up by 3%. And that's been in place since 1998. So since 1998, our revenue has only been climbing by 3% annually, and all of our costs have been growing substantially over that time frame. So due to that fact, we've actually made substantial cuts over the years, and we'll continue to make substantial cuts. We would have made even more cuts in the last few years if it weren't for the ARPA dollars. So ARPA actually gave us a little bit of a breather for about a year or so to be able to work on this longer term solution. And so there's some conversation about what we do with the parks, the police, fire, and parks fee, but essentially our revenue has to go up to be able to ensure that we can continue to provide the services, because without this, what are we looking at for cuts?
Yeah, without this Gresham Safety Levy, we're looking at an $8 million gap, cuts essentially, that we would have to make, which would directly result in service cuts. As an example, in terms of scope of what that means, our entire parks department is $4 million. So if we had to cut that much from our budget just because we didn't have enough revenue, it absolutely would result in decreases in our service level to our community.
So when somebody hears that our parks department is $4 million, they may think that's a lot of money, because $4 million to any individual tends to be a lot of money unless you're Warren Buffett or Phil Knight. But for the average person, $4 million is a lot of money. But in comparison, our sister city, Hillsborough, and the reason I say Hillsborough, because Hillsborough is about 108,000 people. We're 114, 115,000. Hillsborough's park budget is about $26 million. So we spend about $4 million annual on our park system. Hillsborough spends $26 million on their park system. I mean, so you want to talk amenities, you want to talk investments in our community. Now, as a community, do we need to go to $26 million? I don't think so. I mean, from where I sit, I absolutely don't see us going to $26 million. But to cut our entire parks department and even go further, I mean, basically, our general fund, 91% of our general fund, 91% of our general fund goes to police and fire. And when I say that, and usually police and fire usually total about 50 to 60% of the general fund. The reason I say it that way is not because we're overstaffed in police and fire. As a matter of fact, we've received independent studies that say we're understaffed in both of them. And so we're not talking from a position of saying, okay, we're overstaffed and we're spending too much money. No, we're understaffed in those areas, and we need additional staffing done by a third party, independent party, that's told us twice in both the situations that we need additional staffing, not less. And so it's 91% of our general fund, because our general fund is too small in comparison to the size of our city. And that's the frankness of where we are. We haven't passed a levy in the city of Gresham since 1992. And our sister cities, of course, have funded their areas much more substantially. City of Hillsborough has had I think it's like $1.72 or something, since 1998. So they've passed it consistently for 5 straight times. This is the 5th time they just passed it with an 83% approval rate, and they're making those investments in their city. They're making both capital investments, they're making operational investments. Folks sometimes ask me, they're like, Mayor, I want more amenities. And I'm like, well, to be able to get some of those amenities, we have to make investments. But we're not talking about additional lavish amenities at this point. What we're talking about is just coming up to a standard that we're currently below. And so that's one of the biggest challenges. And another issue I think sometimes folks think is that the city of Gresham gets a major portion of their tax dollars. Again, I don't want to go too deep into the technicalities of things, but we have what we call a $10 cap for city services, $10 per thousand. And currently, Multnomah County receives just over $5 per thousand, and the city of Gresham receives $3.61 per thousand. So that's part of the misunderstanding I think some folks missed, because they see it as a total tax bill, which is absolutely legitimate. They see it as a total tax bill, not fully understanding and appreciating where the dollars are going. So we send more of our tax dollar to Multnomah County than what stays here in the city of Gresham. And so that's what also poses a little bit of the challenge that we're up against, that we have to fund. So that's some of the challenge. Thank you for the question. Greatly appreciate the questions, folks. If you have more, please put them in the chat. We'll see if we can't get them answered as we go through the rest of the conversation. So going back to these key areas of investments, you've already highlighted some of the things that we're looking at making the additional investments in. And essentially, again, this is looking at it and saying, okay, one, we have to retain where we are. And then we need to make some additional investments. Doesn't get us to where some of our additional third parties have said you could and should be at, but it gets us closer. Yeah. Gets us closer to that outcome, so that we can start making more positive actions that get us to where we want to be as a safe community. Now, I'm going to take us a little bit off topic. I know. Whenever I do this, everybody cringes. But the safety levy is critical. The safety levy is a critical component of where we need to go. But along with that, when we think community safety, it's a bigger picture. And some folks may say, well, this is only one part of community safety. I just want to make sure that folks understand that we understand that community safety does extend beyond just the concept of police and fire, homeless services, and what we're talking about from a crisis response team. It goes into other areas, because essentially opportunity is one of the best ways to work on community safety. And so that folks understand, we're looking at ways that we can be more engaging with our youth. It's not just about youth violence, it's about youth engagement. And so the headliner for that team is youth services, and youth violence prevention sits underneath that. And so as a city, we are making investments in the short, medium, and long-term success of our city, and not just focus. We did the Imagine Gresham process, which gave us the vision, and there are parts and pieces that we're now able to start implementing. But community safety also extends into other areas, like traffic safety. Sadly, folks, we lost 10 individuals within our community last year to traffic accidents. We lost 10 folks to homicide. So we've got to be looking at community safety from a holistic perspective. So traffic safety is just as important, because it's absolutely preventable. And so we've got to be looking at traffic safety along with all the other safeties when we're talking about community safety. Things like the library that's coming in. That's another big opportunity that we have. Libraries of the future are not the libraries of the past. It's really somewhat a community gathering place and space. There's a book called Palaces for the People that I think does a really good job of identifying exactly that contribution that this facility can make. And what's really cool is that the lead architect for the African American History Museum for the Smithsonian is a contributing architect on this project. So the design's going to be gorgeous, I know, but it's going to be enhancing our community, which enhances opportunity in many of those things. So that's my tangent. That was my little journey off to the side. Let's get back to the Gresham Safety Levy. So what are the steps? So right now, the City Council is considering, kind of the parts and pieces, the amount, the language. Next time that comes back to the City Council is when?
Yeah, the City Council will be discussing the safety levy again at the next council meeting on February 21st, and that will be to approve the ballot language that will ultimately go to voters. So this will be on the ballot in May of this year, a few short months from now, so it's coming up soon. And if this goes through, if our community says yes to this safety levy, we will be able to receive those revenues and budget for it in our next fiscal year. So we'll be able to retain all these staff that we have identified, and also start strategically adding all the staff that we've identified here really quickly upon community support for the safety levy. So it is really right around the corner.
I'm wondering if you can touch on the oversight committee and how that works, and if we receive.
That was my next question.
Nice.
That was my next question. And that's behind the camera is Sarah Sagan. I mean, so that's the voice you hear every now and then throwing a question over top. So if you think you're just hearing a voice from above, no, that's our incredible director of communications here at the City of Gresham. So yes, you raised the question. I was just getting ready to say that. So in that process, the City Council is working on kind of the nuts and bolts of how it all comes together. Part of that, which the City Council is currently talking about, we referenced it a little bit at the last meeting, is this kind of oversight committee. And Councilor Hinton, actually Council President Piazza actually mentioned kind of having a oversight that includes the council and community members. And we already have a potential oversight committee that exists that is a combination of community members and the council. Budget committee?
Yeah, that's right. Yes. Our budget committee that reviews our annual budget is made up of community members who serve on our finance committee as well as our council. And we do know that, oversight committee is really important and crucial to operating levies because they can really provide good insight into making sure that the funds are being spent in the way that they were listed in the ballot. So we must spend the money in the way that it's written in the ballot initiative. Legally, we are required to do that. So our oversight committee, especially having our finance committee members who are so familiar with our budget and know a lot about finance, and of course our council who knows a lot about our budget too, having them involved in the oversight will really ensure that our funds are being spent wisely and that our community is seeing a positive impact from the result of the safety levy.
And, that concept of transparency, I mean, we think about, I'm going to use the phrase fund accounting, which I'm an accountant by training, and fund accounting, yeah, I'm not quite sure it's real accounting. I didn't say that, accounting folks. So fund accounting is a bit complex, but the thing about fund accounting, it's very transparent in its presentation. So you have to have the dollars coming in, you have to track the dollars going out. All of those things have to be readily available per Oregon budget law. And then the City of Gresham has received accolades for our financial reporting and the way we do our accounting. So we do an annual audit, and it actually says whether or not our financials are presented correctly, whether or not our processes and controls are what we say they are, and we've recently received stellar audits. I mean, so that's another opportunity for an outside entity to oversee kind of what we have going on, along with the accolades and the awards that we've received in recognition of the work that we do from a financial reporting standpoint.
Yeah.
So we've got that, but the budget committee, based on the prior conversation last week with the council, will be overtaking the oversight responsibilities, which includes, again, community members and then also members of the council who are, of course, required and bound by the Oregon budget law to ensure that things go exactly where we say they're going to go. And historically, I mean, we've got budgets that go all the way back.
If you want to do some light reading. Yeah.
Many years, which clearly identifies, like the PFP, the Police, Fire, and Parks fee. You can clearly see the money coming in, the money going out. It's clear and transparent. I mean, you have to have I would say you have to have a little bit of just financial knowledge and how to read a financial statement. We do a roll up where we summarize some of the stuff, but to really get down into the steep detail, it does take a little bit of financial knowledge to be able to get really into some of that information. But again, we've got an oversight committee who will be assisting our community in ensuring that if we say the money's going to go here, the money's going to go there.
Absolutely.
So oversight committee, we've got kind of the budget language, the ballot title, all those coming up. And then May 2023, so May of this year is when when the levy goes.
Yeah, and if you want to learn more information about the levy, you're intrigued today, you want to know more, you want to know all the numbers, which I didn't recite off all the numbers because that's a lot to be floating around, please visit our website. You can go to Gresham Safety Levy on our website and find out all the information that we talked about today and more. again, to transparency, we're trying to be very transparent about what we're proposing, how these monies would be used, and how they will impact our service level and impact you as a community member. So I'd encourage people to check out the website to learn more.
So just a couple of final questions. I mean, when we think about, as we prepare our budget this year, it's a little tricky because we're preparing a budget that will include some of the prospects of this levy. And if it doesn't pass, then we have to have a second budget that we have to go with. And if it doesn't pass, we are cutting substantial areas, police, fire, support staff, all of those areas will see cuts. I know you just said we're not throwing out a bunch of numbers, but what kind of numbers are we looking at across the board if we were looking at a total team member reduction if it doesn't pass? Is that
we're looking
30 people?
It's an $8 million reduction, which is over 100 people across our organization. So, with those kinds of numbers, currently our organization has over 600 employees. So when you're looking at that substantial of a cut, that really would have direct impacts on our services to the community. And we'd have to have tough conversations with our council about, knowing we have to make our revenues balance to expenses at the end of the day. What services are we comfortable with, or maybe not even comfortable with, but are going to have to let go of because we just don't have enough money to provide those services anymore. So those are the tough conversations that could be coming.
Absolutely.
If we don't have this levy. So it's really critical to keep what we have, like you said earlier. We want to maintain the services that we have today. We want to be responsive to you as community members. We've started a lot of great programs and projects, and we want to continue those. But at the end of the day, we just simply need more money to do this work, and that's really what we're asking for.
So Nina, you just prompted a thought in what you just said. So we're in the year 2023. This budget that we're going to have is 2023-2024 budget year. And you said that we're over 600 full-time employees. Of course, as I always reference our sister city, Hillsborough, they're over 800 full-time employees. Not saying that that's now too big for their size, but they're over 800. So just comparison, we're almost 200, full-time equivalents less than our sister city, who's smaller than us. Furthermore, if we had to cut about 100 people or more, our full-time equivalents in 1998 was 500 people. We're just over 600 today. If we cut 100 people, that would put us closer to 500, which was our team size in 1998 when the city of Gresham was substantially smaller as a population size and as a city size. And again, the majority of our general fund is police and fire. And so some of the largest gains have been in our public safety area, and rightly so. I mean, and we're still not where we need to be and should be for a city our size. So that's the challenge. I mean, that's the problem that we're faced with, from a general fund perspective is, again, if we had to cut 100 people, we would be back to the same size team that we were in 1998. And we're, 25 years later? Yeah. Growth but shrink. I think that's probably pretty challenging, especially when the vast bulk of our budget is about service delivery in the community, not support staff. It's about support in the community. So, folks, as always, I want to appreciate you taking your time to stop by and listen to our Facebook Live. We do this on a monthly basis. Greatly appreciate, again, the questions that we get. We get them sometimes pre the conversation and sometimes during. So again, I want to thank the person who did give us the question today. And as you could tell, the city of Gresham is an amazing city, an absolutely amazing city. I love living here and absolutely want us to make the investments that we need in our incredible city to ensure we can survive and thrive. And that's really what this is about. It's about the community that can thrive and not just exist at a level that doesn't allow all of our communities, all of our community members to have access to the highest and best opportunities that exist throughout the region and throughout the state. And so that's what this conversation is about. That's what the levy is about. Again, we appreciate you taking the time to drop by for this month's Facebook Live, and we welcome you back next month to future conversations. And yeah, vote yes on the levy. Thank you. We'll see you soon.